Hello everyone, Sage Blue here, racing in the GT4 category this time around. Pretty good start in the Aston Martin V8 Vantage, you can see there. First time racing at Zolder in Belgium. It very cramped, had to stay on the inside there in the first corner trying to avoid any collisions with anybody else. Okay, so that black Ford Mustang ran a bit wide. I took advantage and took its place. So up to third from 8th, which is a pretty good start, has to be said, based on a bit of luck from a bad running from other cars as well. Okay, getting a run at the Jetta G55. Now, from my experience seeing this car in action, I think the Jetta G55 is the car to have in this category. It seems to be very quick with circuits that have a lot of tight corners, like this circuit, Zolder. But we'll see how things pan out. And, okay, having a bit of a run at the Jetta now, trying to apply a bit of pressure. Cold tyres as well, so adds that extra bit of thrill racing around here. Okay, going through the hairpin to approaching the end of the lap. Being a 7-lap race, so coming up to the final chicane. Nice bit of banking into that left-hander. Now the right-hander is trickier than it looks to try and get the power down, at least in the Aston Martin anyway. Okay, so braking as late as I can while trying to make the apex at the more acute angle, but couldn't pull it off. That Jetta does have a lot of good grip. However, the car that I'm in, the Aston Martin V8 Vantage, does have more straight line speed, which is useful, but on this circuit I don't believe it's nearly enough to really fight with the Jetta at the moment, so we'll see how things pan out. Tyres improving more and more, especially compared to the first lap. Has to be said, some of these chicanes, like the one that was just gone past and the one coming up now, I don't recall racing at chicanes like this where you can see the undulations at the apexes there. It really adds more to, well, getting more out of you as a driver, and it's just more interesting. So instead of just simply a flat road course, you're just getting undulations all over the place, even right at the apex, so it's quite fantastic. Running over the curbs nicely. Made a few adjustments to the car setup, not many at all. The suspension is pretty similar setting to the default setting. However, I did add a fair bit of negative camber to assist with turn-in. The downforce and gear ratio settings are the same as the default settings, so just making use of what the car naturally has to offer for the most part with the default settings, and finding it's going quite okay over the curbs. It's riding the curbs well. It's the turn-in initially wasn't great, so hence added more negative camber, and the turn-in's quite good now. Perhaps softer springs would help, however it does destabilise the car a bit on this circuit at times, but the grip coming out of corners, riding over bumps, etc. would be a huge help, I'm sure. Okay, trying to keep up with the Jetta. The Jetta's all over the Aston Martin in the lead. The Aston Martin in the lead, I think, is of the faster model than the V8 Vantage. I'm not certain of that, but certainly got that feel considering the grid layout for this race, where this Aston Martin that's in the lead, there's I think 4 of them that's towards the front, and the one that I'm in is towards the back of the field, which is if it's really the case that the one that I've chosen is slower, it's a bad choice by me, so sorry about that, but still racing, as you can see, with the front runners, so it'll be interesting to see if they pick up their pace and everything as well. at the moment, just trying to apply as much pressure as I can. Okay, so made a tap there, so letting the Ginetta get back through, feathering off the throttle a bit through that chicane, and resuming racing again. So see if I can try and make a lunge on the inside into turn one. Okay, so not far up enough inside. The Ginetta's got a lot of good speed through. Okay, another attempt, but yeah, just couldn't get far enough inside there again. The Ginetta's got a lot of good speed through the corners, so it'll catch up to the leader pretty quick. Hopefully I can tag along as well to battle for the lead again. You could really see the bumps through the corners there. It's you feel it a lot more in car, has to be said. You can see quite a bit in these TV style cameras, but it's even more interesting in car. Okay, so coming around here, generally around 200 kilometers per hour before the chicane. Got to be careful keeping the car as stable as you can while riding those curbs. It's probably even more difficult than it looks. Puff of smoke. They're going a touch wide over the ripple strips. Okay, so change in lead there, the Ginetta went for it. What actually happened there, which you couldn't see from that camera angle well, is the Ginetta actually bumped that Aston Martin off for the lead. So if this was a real life race, I'm sure that Ginetta would be heavily penalised, at least a drive-through penalty, if not having time added to their finishing time, like 10 seconds or something like I see in some other categories. But we'll see how it goes. Okay, so now trying different things because I can see the Ginetta's potential speed already at this point. So trying different braking distances, even different lines. So just a few little trial and errors before I settle down into my racing line again. But you can see the Ginetta already stretching its legs a bit. So trying to keep up, seeing what can happen if I can continue applying pressure. You can really see the undulations there, at least into the left-hander, into that chicane. Much of this circuit at the very least is going up natural terrain, so very hilly. Almost a bit tricky at times to brake while you're turning. That's another little trial I made there, trying to brake a bit late into that chicane. So I lost a bit of time to third place, and it's certainly lost time to the leader. So good sense of speed here, coming down into that hairpin. Tried a different line into the hairpin. Not the fastest way around, so I won't try that line again. Basically was turning a bit earlier into the hairpin, seeing if that's a faster way around, but it certainly wasn't, and also compromised my exit speed as well. It's quite a tricky corner, that last right-hander, to really get the power down up the short hill there. It's a good challenging track. You may well enjoy it, and if you haven't tried Zolder out in one of these GT4 cars, it's worth trying out if you enjoy touring car style racing. Okay, going a bit wide there. I think that's just a bit of a genuine mistake, but collecting it up nicely, keeping on the racing line. Third place, trying to apply a bit of pressure to me. Okay, so coming up to the chicane here, up to 215 kilometers per hour before braking hard, going over 100 kilometers per hour through the chicane. Up over the crest, there's a bump there, so you've got to be careful with your steering and then turning while braking here. It's one of the more interesting chicanes I've come across, that one. It's a lot of undulations, trying to keep the car balanced through it. Now here, no sooner that you exit that right-hander, you turn left, so keep the car as balanced as you can, going through the left-hander. Very important to get a good exit out of that hairpin because there's a fair bit of a straight here. And then certainly coming out of this final chicane, getting the power down on the right hands. I've got to emphasise that. Getting the power down right here is paramount. It's difficult. If you've got low revs, you just come up that little hill a bit slower. The others will maximise their advantage on you. It's important in the first turn here to just try and even run over the inside curb if you can. I find generally that's the fastest way through that first corner. This one, going over the curbs is a quick way as well. So obviously important to make sure your car's balanced over the curbs. You can see the car just moving around over the bumps. It's riding the bumps quite nicely. Still tricky to drive, but it's a joy to drive, and a lot of that's thanks to the track, but also the car as well. Okay, over the crest again. Really riding the bumps nicely at the top of the hills so they don't become a problem. While you first practice here, you may find a bit of a problem. You've just got to adjust your driving style to suit those bumps and make sure the car doesn't spin out on you. The car getting lighter with fuel load as well, so it's just becoming nicer and nicer to drive with the warmer tyres, warmer brakes, and the lighter fuel load as well, of course. Okay, so coming along the start-finish straight. Hope you enjoyed that race. So finishing second there behind the Ginetta G55, which was roughly 3 seconds up the road, just over 3 seconds. So the advantage was pretty clear with that car. Very good setup, obviously, for that Ginetta G55. I should have focused a bit more on the car setup for you. But hey, hopefully you enjoyed the racing. It's no one really dominated. There was a lot of tussles there for the lead. Tried to take the Ginetta G55 before it passed the other Aston Martin for the lead. And next time, hopefully we'll continue having good racing like that. Till next time.